of the thousand-year world of heaven. What needs to be considered now is that, not to mention the many peculiarities in my theories, just the heavenly life I created in practice is enough to prove the wonders of spiritual thinking. Chanyuan celestials who have lived with me know that despite writing and doing so much, I always completed everything in a relaxed and happy atmosphere and state. Why was I able to complete a huge amount of work so easily? There is no mystery, it is simply relying on spiritual thinking, without needing to use your brain. Based on my personal experience and understanding, I will give a brief overview of spiritual thinking. To attain spiritual thinking, one must let God occupy their body, mind, and spirit. One must be in a state of emptiness, free from any attachment or obsession. One must act without intention, free from desire or purpose. One must constantly be in a state of death, meaning that they have placed themselves in a state of surrender. One must always be truthful and genuine, without any element of falsehood. If there is even the slightest bit of insincerity in what one says or does, the spiritual edifice will crumble. One must never be in a hurry or become agitated and should take things as they come, associate with others by following naturally come-and-go relations, act in accordance with your natures, and take advantage of opportunities that arise and without joy or sorrow. One should be unselfish and selfless, without attachment to either self or others or to any particular ideology or doctrine, and let events unfold naturally without seeking gain or avoiding loss. One must attain a state of possessing nothing, without controlling or possessing anything, including people. If a person's body, mind, spirit, and soul are in the above 8 states, then they are a spiritual thinker. However, if one has even the slightest bit of self-interest or desire, they cannot enter a state of spiritual thinking. 天地待君如何? How does the world treat you? Xiefeng. December 25, 2022. Edited by Qinyu. If you want to know how the world treats you, first ask yourself how you treat the world. The sun gives you light and warmth every day. How does the world treat you? Do you show gratitude to the world for the light and warmth it gives you? The earth produces the food, vegetables, fruits, and grains you need. How does the world treat you? Do you appreciate and cherish the earth that takes care of you? The greatest creator has given you eyes to see the road ahead and appreciate the beauty of nature. How does the world treat you? Do you show gratitude to the greatest creator and cherish everything you have? Nature nurtures us with light, water, and air. How does nature treat you? Do you respect and take care of nature without polluting it? Generous and perfect nature provides you with everything you need, and a perfect body gives you various sensations. The greatest creator is good to you, isn't he? Do you treat the creator of everything in the world in the same way? The greatest creator, the earth, nature, and the land treat you like a precious child. What do you have to complain about or hate? Have you ever sincerely respected and revered them? Someone asked me, if your greatest creator is so compassionate, why doesn't he save the people from floods and fires? I replied, the greatest creator told everyone to follow the way of nature, the path of life Changyuan, and they will be spared from floods and fires. Why don't people listen? When you are in trouble, do you know that it is caused by your own greed? When you are in the depths of despair, do you know that it is caused by your own selfishness? When you calculate against others, it is reasonable for them to calculate against you. When you spread hatred to society, society will throw pain back at you. This is fair and just. When you treat emotions as an investment and love as a commodity, regrets and sorrows will undoubtedly follow. If you don't trust anyone, who in the world will trust you? If you don't love anyone, who in the world will love you? If you show no mercy, how can the world show mercy to you? When you cut off everyone's livelihood, you will have no way out in the end. Perhaps you will curse me, but I still want to say, there is no one in the world who is wronged. Examine everyone's past actions and words, and today's gains are just right. The Tao of Heaven operates without partiality towards anyone. The laws of the universe are clear, and rewards and punishments are exact. I have a 6-word mantra that can help you cross the sea of suffering and seek the holy realm. Why don't you give it a try? Repentance, gratitude, contentment. When translated into Chinese, it is 6 Chinese characters. 忘记感恩必陷迷途. Forgetting gratitude will lead to being lost. By Xiefeng. June 6, 2023. Edited by Qin Yu. A grateful heart keeps the mind clear and the future bright. Gratitude attracts blessings, and a grateful heart reduces obstacles along the way. Once gratitude is forgotten, one may lose one's path, and life's journey becomes chaotic and filled with continuous setbacks and hardships. When the warm sun shines upon us and the sky is clear and blue, when we witness the beauty of mountains and rivers, and hear the chirping of birds and the croaking of frogs and geese flying across the blue sky, does a sense of gratitude arise spontaneously? Without gratitude towards the Creator, we cannot fully appreciate the pure cleansing of the soul that comes with a grateful heart. We will also find it difficult to experience the extreme joy and satisfaction that gratitude brings. Regardless of whether one's family is wealthy or poor, parents always do their best to care for their children. As children, have we expressed gratitude to our parents? Looking back at our infancy, childhood, and youth, during which period did we not receive our parents' love and care? How can we forget the kindness of our parents? Regardless of their knowledge, for outlooks, economic, or social status, our parents have shown us kindness, and we must not forget it. Once we forget, we have failed as human beings. If your parents go against your wishes once, and you completely forget the countless times they have cared for you, it signifies a loss of gratitude. Once the sense of gratitude is lost, the flow of blessings is cut off, and thereafter, life will not be smooth. Over the 60-plus years of my interactions with people, I have discovered that many conflicts and sources of distress and pain between individuals are related to a lack of gratitude. For example, if Zhang San has helped Li Si selflessly many times, but one time Zhang San refuses Li Si's request for help, Li Si changes his attitude, becomes angry, and even engages in arguments and offensive speech. I think to myself, Li Si, oh Li Si, you are truly an ungrateful person. Zhang San has been so good to you, yet you are so petty and even repay kindness with enmity. You truly do not know how to appreciate. Repaying a drop of water with a gushing spring is beyond my capacity. However, I can achieve something else. If someone has shown me a small favor or helped me once, I can joyfully accept their refusal or insult 10 times. Why can I do this? Because I don't forget their kindness. Every person should reflect on whether they have received help from others on their journey of life. If they have, they should remember that person's kindness. If we only remember the kindness we have received, then in future interactions with that person, we will know how to treat them. No matter how they treat us, we only need to remember the good they once did for us. What are the consequences of forgetting gratitude? If we have benefited from someone and instead of showing gratitude, we not only forget their kindness but also harm them, will they be willing to help us on our future journey of life? Will people around us be willing to lend a helping hand when we face difficulties and adversity? Forgetting gratitude will lead us to become increasingly lonely, unwelcome, and isolated. Our path will become narrower. We all know that Zimbabwe is now one of the poorest countries in the world. How did a country that was once the breadbasket of southern Africa, with a pleasant climate and beautiful natural environment, rich in tourism resources, fall into such poverty? It is because Zimbabwe forgot gratitude. Zimbabwe forcibly seized 4,000 white-owned farms without compensation, driving those white farmers away from their land. This led to a systemic crisis with talent and capital outflow. Within a few years, the country's currency collapsed, and it rapidly transitioned from wealth to poverty. I lived in Zimbabwe for a full 16 years, and I understand the country's past and current situation, as well as the significant contributions of white-owned farms to Zimbabwe. However, the people of Zimbabwe fail to show gratitude towards the white population and instead repay kindness with animosity. The consequence is disorder and poverty. Today, we criticize the United States, labeling it as hegemonic and assertive, saying, "The intention of the American imperialism to make us perish never dies." However, in China's history, there are not many instances of the United States bullying China, but rather countless examples of the United States offering assistance. So, what will happen to China? What will be the result of this ingratitude? Will China become the next Zimbabwe? If instead of gratitude, China continues to criticize the United States, constantly seeking confrontation. Within 10 years, China may very well follow in the footsteps of Zimbabwe and Venezuela. Remembering gratitude, individuals will not suffer losses, nations will not suffer losses, and the country will not suffer losses. The path will become wider as we go. Forgetting gratitude, individuals will encounter setbacks, nations will face hardships, and the country will move towards disaster. The path will become narrower as we go. 不求公平但求心安. Do not seek fairness, but seek peace of mind. Xiefeng. October 19, 2021. Translation edited by Qin Yu. The way of nature is just and fair. Only with the eyes of Dharma opened can one see clearly. There is no place that is not fair, no time that is not just. The retribution of cause and effect is not wrong by a hair's breadth. The sum of positive and negative energy is zero, as sure as nails hammered into a board. Everywhere people see is unfair. Facing cats, it is unfair to mice. Facing lions, tigers, leopards, and wolves, it is unfair to antelopes, buffalo, sheep, and deer. Facing birds, it is unfair to insects. Facing people, it is unfair to animals and plants. Facing the gods, Buddhas, and celestial beings of heaven, it is unfair to people. Even between people, some are handsome, some have a wretched appearance, some are beautiful and sexy, some make people unwilling to take a second look, some are born into luxury, some struggle all their lives but still cannot live without worries about food and clothing even in their old age. Some are intelligent, some are dull. As long as we compare, we will find that the world is unfair everywhere. Since reality is like this, then let's not pursue fairness. Once pursuing fairness, one will have trouble sleeping and eating. One's life will be spent in worries, pain, anger, resentment, jealousy, and hatred, without happiness, joy, freedom, or bliss, and will be far from heaven. Being able to be born as a human, one should be grateful to the divine. If one can be born with normal facial features and physiology, it is already a great blessing. If one can live a life without major disasters, diseases, or troubles, it's already like burning high-quality incense and ancestors' graves emitting green smoke. If one can live a life where one can eat full meals and live in a hut sheltered from the wind and rain is also considered a great blessing. If one can have no worries about food and clothing and can sit down with 3 or 5 close friends and relatives to chat over drinks and discuss the sun, moon, stars, seasons, and the changing times, it's comparable to the life of a little deity. Life is like this. What else is there to seek? Why suffer from joy and sorrow? Why pursue fairness? Comparing oneself with others will only lead to frustration. Being frustrated can't be blamed on others, only on oneself. Why do you need to compare yourself with others? Article 102 of the 800 Values for the New Era Humans states, "A mind of comparison is a mind of wickedness." Why is the mind of comparison considered wicked? Observing the vast majority of ugly phenomena in human society, most of them are the result of people comparing themselves with others. When one's neighbor buys a small car, the one without a car starts to feel uneasy, starts to think about how to buy a better car than their neighbor. When the Zhang family in the countryside buys a house in the city, the nearby Li family can no longer sleep and must also buy a house in the city to feel at ease. Isn't this suffering for nothing? If you're 1.7 meters tall, why envy someone who is 1.8 meters tall? If your family is healthy and safe, why envy someone who has a bustling scene in front of their house? If you have an acre of land to cultivate, why envy someone who has thousands of acres of fertile land? If you have 3 or 5 close friends to drink and talk about mulberry and hemp with, why envy others' high-sounding speeches on the public stage? Contentment brings no disgrace, moderation brings no peril, and one can endure for a long time. There is no greater sin than desire, and no greater calamity than discontent. Discontentment arises from comparison. If people do not compare with each other, the world will be prosperous. Feeling unfairness is the result of comparison. Pursuing fairness is folly. If someone else has youthful pimps and you don't, do you feel disadvantaged? If your neighbor's doorstep is piled with garbage, do you feel it's only fair to pile garbage at your own doorstep? If someone else's house is washed away by floods, do you feel it's fair to knock down your own house? If someone else has a lump on their heart and undergoes surgery, do you feel it's fair for you to undergo surgery too? If someone else embezzles 100 million yuan and is sent to prison, do you feel it's fair for you to live in prison too? Where can you find fairness? For 20 years, I lived in a villa with a lush green lawn, a large swimming pool, and flourishing flowers and trees, but you couldn't live there. Do you feel it's unfair? If you feel it's unfair, it's because you haven't seen how I struggled and lived over the past decades. While you leisurely enjoy TV programs, I am studying hard under the lamp. You lived leisurely. I studied hard. This is unfair to me, isn't it? One day, when I was enjoying creating beautiful sceneries on the Balikia island of the Celestial Islands continent, you were envying and resenting me in the human world, thinking it was unfair, but you never knew what I had sacrificed for it. In fact, behind any unfair phenomenon we see, there is a reason for the unfairness that a person does not know. It's true that, for 10 years, no one asked about the hardships of studying, but once you're recognized, everyone knows. There is a cause and effect relationship between being recognized and the hardships of studying for 10 years. Understanding this truth, one will no longer pursue superficial fairness, but will instead put effort into places where no one knows. In fact, speaking from the way of nature, there is no need to put effort into places where no one knows. As a human, one only needs to have peace of mind. The so-called peace of mind means not to harm others, not to harm nature. To respect the greatest creator, to respect life, to respect nature. To follow the way of nature is to be extremely auspicious, to be justified in peace of mind, and to be able to walk towards heaven. The more precious, the simpler and cheaper. Xiefeng, November 25, 2021. Translation edited by Qin Yu. For life, the simpler, cheaper, and easier to obtain, the more valuable it is. Sunshine, air, soil, and water are the most precious to life. Easy to obtain, simple, and cheap. Airplanes, cars, computers, and mobile phones may not be necessary, but sunshine, air, soil, and water are indispensable. The more valueless things are to life, the more complex, expensive, and difficult to obtain, such as diamonds, luxury watches, heroin, and antiques. Observing the relationship between nature and life, we will eventually discover that what the greatest creator gives to life is the most precious. The more beneficial it is to life, the simpler, cheaper, and easier to obtain. And what the devil gives to life is to consume life. The more useless it is to life, the more complex, expensive, and difficult to obtain. From this, we can understand some simple truths. The relationship between people, the easier it is to maintain and uphold, the more beneficial it is to oneself, and the more difficult it is to maintain and uphold, the more worthless it is. For the elevation of life, the more common-sense plain truths are more valuable, and the more profound and complex truths are less beneficial to the elevation of life. For cultivation and practice, the simpler, more direct, and easier ways are better, and the ways that consume money and time and energy are not good. For diseases, the cheaper the medicine, the more effective it is, and the simpler the treatment, the more effective it is. The more expensive the medicine, the more problems it has, and the more complex the treatment, the worse it is. For seeking knowledge and learning, the teachers or masters who do not charge or charge less and treat people equally are more knowledgeable, and the teachers or masters who charge high fees and pose as superior are more lacking in real knowledge. For national governance, the fewer government agencies, civil servants, and regulations, the more beneficial it is to the people, and the more agencies, civil servants, and regulations, the more harmful it is to the people. For lifestyle, the simpler the lifestyle, the happier it will be, and the more complex the lifestyle, the more anxious and painful it will be. In terms of value, the easier to obtain, the more valuable it is, and the more difficult and costly it is to obtain, the less valuable it is. Want a happy, joyful, free, and blessed life? Want a life where no one will keep lost articles found on the roadside and doors will not need to be locked at night? Worthy people will fully utilize their talents. The whole world will be as one family. Everyone live and work in peace and contentment. Want to elevate your life to heaven and break free from reincarnation? Then let everything be simplified instead of complicated. Value inexpensive things instead of pursuing expensive things, and find the easiest and most comfortable way instead of searching hard for difficult and mysterious ways, because the more precious, the simpler and cheaper. 幸福探源, exploring the source of happiness. 写评, December 16, 2021. Translation edited by Chinyu. Everyone longs to live a happy life, desiring happiness in life. So, how exactly can one attain happiness? Happiness requires the following 8 conditions. Having the ability to contribute and serve others without expecting anything in return. Living without pressure, free from ridicule, belittlement, insult, or attack from others. Seeing labor and creation as the primary elements of life and enjoying working and creating. Having someone who cares and loves oneself. Having someone you deeply cherish in your heart, and having an admired figure. Having faith in the greatest creator, also known as the ancestor of Buddha, so that even under the most difficult circumstances in life, one can still hold on to hope and feel happiness. Otherwise, once struck by adversity, happiness will vanish without a trace. Possessing abundant soul and spiritual wealth and loving nature. Regardless of one's situation, never comparing oneself to others, never envying others, and never resenting others. Having a heart of gratitude, contentment, non-greed, and having never harmed any life or nature. Regardless of who it is, once they possess the above 8 conditions, they will surely experience deep content and happiness. 爱到极致是崇拜. Love to the extreme is worship. 写评, December 28, 2021. Translation edited by Chinyu. Worship is the ultimate expression of emotion. When a person loves something or someone to an unparalleled extent, worship emerges. When worship occupies someone's mind, they become irrational. They become fervent, their spirit entering a realm akin to obsession, intoxication, dreams, or illusions. Verbal expression of such emotions seems inadequate. They may resort to shouting, waving arms, kissing the cheeks, hands, toes, or even the buttocks of the worshipped object or person, demonstrating their immense reverence and love. At this point, any change in the worshipped entity will immediately trigger intense emotions, even hysteria, in the worshipper. Worship is unrelated to morality, ethics, culture, correctness, logic, philosophy, or science. Worship is purely a psychological activity, the ultimate expression of emotionalism in the spiritual world. Worship has 2 diametrically opposite consequences. Worshipping the wrong object leads straight to hell, while worshipping the right one leads directly to eternal bliss in heaven. Objects of worship are diverse, including totem worship, ancestor worship, power worship, money worship, sexual organ worship, art worship, idol worship, personal worship, such as worshiping a master, and pure land worship. When we look back at historical instances of worship, we may find them laughable, ridiculous, ignorant, and pitiful. Poison may sometimes be a precious medicine, while medicine may sometimes be a corrosive poison. Worship is both poison and medicine. Therefore, worship is both the most dangerous and the safest. Worship has the following 8 characteristics: blindness, explosive bursts of intense emotion, love to the extent that one forgets oneself, utter lack of rationality, fervor, ultimate purity, indiscriminate acceptance of the worshipped object, regardless of truth or falsehood, goodness or wickedness, beauty or ugliness, correctness or wrongness, fearlessness of danger and death. Those who have never experienced a climax of sexual ecstasy cannot comprehend the sensation of extreme climax. Similarly, those who have never experienced feelings of worship cannot understand the extreme joy and beauty within the hearts of worshipers. A highly rational person will never develop a sense of worship, while a highly spiritual person is prone to develop worshipful tendencies. Worship is when the worshipper harbors absolute trust, respect, love, and adoration for the worshipped object without any doubt or flaw, and enters a psychological, emotional, and conscious state of worship. In the material world, it's best to let those without worshipful tendencies manage, as their rationality brings order, fairness, and peace to the world. However, rational people find it difficult to feel and experience the wonders of heaven. The most wonderful experiences belong to those with a sense of worship. When we see a madman, dressed in tattered clothes, who seemingly has never washed his face or taken a bath, shouting irrationally, we can't help but feel pity for him. But in the world of the irrational, they see us as expressionless wooden or stone figures or grotesque monsters with no interest in anything. Worshippers are pitiable because they are the easiest to manipulate and the easiest to send to hell. Worshippers are the happiest because when the sense of worship arises, they are actually living in heaven. Oh, worshippers! How pitiful! Oh, worshippers! How beautiful! 所谓灵魂伴侣是个美丽陷阱. The so-called soulmate is a beautiful trap. Xiefeng. January 16, 2022. Translation edited by Qin Yu. The sixth patriarch of Zen Buddhism, Huaining, said, "Who would have thought that our nature is intrinsically self-sufficient? The super-celestial beings of the Celestial Islands continent are self-consistent of yin and yang and are androgynous. Celestial beings and Buddhas have perfect self-nature, never seeking external validation. Many modern people are seeking soulmates, which shows that they are seeking externally, being led by their own desires, essentially being misled by outward forms. This is no different in essence from many people pursuing wealth, power, status, fame, luxury cars, and mansions. Once a companion, whether physical or spiritual, is found, the self-nature will be shattered. The purity, clarity, beauty, and innocence of the self-nature will be contaminated and lost. If a life does not possess independent consciousness and insists on finding another half to complete itself, then the soul of this life is a wandering soul, like a lost spirit in the wilderness, shouting aimlessly. When two such wandering souls intertwine, there may be calmness, but a greater danger is lurking, as it is difficult to form a complete and independent consciousness, and life must consist of individual, independent souls to ascend to the heavenly realm. Souls intertwined together will not be accepted by the heavenly program. In essence, those who are seeking soulmates are looking for spiritual and emotional relief due to feelings of loneliness and isolation. In marital relationships, the partner who is in discord, as well as those who are single after divorce, seek soulmates as they grapple with loneliness and a sense of spiritual emptiness. However, the concept of a soulmate is just a beguiling illusion, luring people into a ceaseless search. Ultimately, the quest for finding a soulmate is nothing more than self-intoxication, self-absorption, and indulgence in a form of spiritual escapism. Do Buddhas have soulmates? Certainly not. For those with companions are certainly not Buddhas. Do celestial beings have soulmates? Even less so, for how can one who has a companion follow what is predestined, be open, leave everything to fate, and be free and unfettered? How could one roam freely and at ease, be unrestrained and elegant? How could one achieve mind manifesting as events occur, mind empty when events are gone? Companions are actually obstacles on the journey of life's elevation, entangling the footsteps of individuals. The higher the level of the soul, the greater the freedom of life, the less the need for companionship. Only children who have not yet grown up need companionship, and lives with incomplete and unfulfilled souls need companionship. Soulmates come from platonic spiritual love, belonging to divine intercourse, rejecting physical intercourse, and pursuing spiritual communication and harmony. This concept was created by the Italian Renaissance theologian Marsilio Ficino. However, whether it is Plato or Marsilio Ficino, their understanding of sexuality is superficial. Seeking soulmates may seem lofty in literal terms, but in reality, it is just a false and impractical spiritual and emotional anesthetic. In my viewpoint, on the journey of life's elevation, independence and freedom are paramount. Any consciousness seeking companionship will hinder the ascent of one's life. The desire for a life partner or soulmate will only make the soul lonelier and more helpless. The follow-up comment from Tongxin Celestial. I agree with the guide's statement that there are no soulmates in this world. Where can one find another soul that perfectly matches theirs? From a scientific perspective, it's impossible for a snowflake to split perfectly in half, matching one half to another living being. The evolution and growth of individual organisms are not like playing a jigsaw puzzle. There may be phenomena of attraction between individuals with similar structures and frequencies, but they still remain independent. There's no way for them to perfectly merge into one soul, especially when each soul has its own imperfections and incompleteness. The idea of a soulmate, with its connotations of completeness, is nothing more than self-indulgence, anesthesia, and imagination. Moreover, from the perspective of the evolutionary laws of life structure, structural changes cannot occur fundamentally due to external influences at the same level of consciousness. Guidance and teachings from divine figures like gods, Buddhas, and celestial beings may have an impact, but it's a gradual process. Trying to achieve structural completeness through a so-called soulmate lacks scientific basis and feasibility. At best, what one can gain from the concept of a soulmate is energy, solving some issues of spiritual loneliness and companionship. However, one still needs to address their own shortcomings and deficiencies on their own. Even if one finds such a so-called soulmate, conflicts and problems may arise due to the imperfections of both parties, as the structures of two lives are not naturally harmonious. Therefore, for lives dedicated to spiritual improvement and refinement, appropriate space and distance are needed. One must grow independently, breaking through the hard shell of their own thoughts and consciousness from within, rather than relying on an external soulmate for breakthroughs and rebirth. Loneliness may prompt one to seek companionship, but a long-term, fixed companion is nothing more than two people hobbling along together. Thus, compared to seeking a soulmate, finding a group of like-minded fellow practitioners resonating on the same frequency, living and practicing together in a simulated heavenly lifestyle, is the best path. It not only replenishes the energy needed, but also provides the space necessary for individual ascension. What needs to be overcome must be overcome by oneself. Soulmates cannot provide the growth and ascension of life. Instead, they temporarily provide dependence and long-term hindrances and constraints, leading both parties to linger longer in the human world. 给自己的灵魂披上一件圣洁的外衣. Adorn your soul with a holy robe. Xiefeng. January 17, 2022. Translation edited by Qinyu. The beauty of the world is revealed through myriad things. The value of an item is shown through its function and purpose. The inner beauty of a person is reflected in their words and actions. The beauty of the soul is manifested through the light and colors it presents to the world. Let us clothe our souls in a sacred garment, radiant and translucent. This sacred garment is made of the following materials. Regardless of how dirty the surrounding world may be, maintain cleanliness. No matter how frenetic the world may be, remain calm and grounded. Never bully the honest, let alone deceive the weak. Never lose your temper with them. Never praise power, never admire status, never grovel before money. Speak without pretense, act without being secretive or sneaky. Never engage in giving or accepting bribes, never covet even a penny of ill-gotten gains. Rely solely on your own efforts for what you gain. Refuse any excess. Either speak the truth or remain silent. Always tell the truth. Treat guests with the best you have. Either avoid dealing with others or deal with them sincerely and genuinely. Once you make a promise, even if it costs you your life, fulfill it. Do not judge without understanding the facts and truth. Maintain the cleanliness and tidiness of yourself and your living environment. Grow vegetables, fruits, and grains untainted. Produce food without toxins. Do not let your soul be tainted by impurities for the sake of survival. Maintain the nobility, sanctity, purity, and elegance of your soul. Even if no one appreciates your pure soul, do not descend to the level of falsehood, evil, and ugliness. Even if evil forces push you to a dead end, do not bow down to them in submission. When light pierces through darkness and illuminates the earth, all will be revealed in their true forms. At that time, render unto Caesar the things that are Caesar's, and unto God the things that are God's. At that time, cattle will return to the pen, pigs to the sty, celestials to the celestial world, Buddhas to their pure land. 看看完美心灵花园有多重要. See how important it is to perfect one's soul garden. Xiefeng. August 28, 2022. Translation edited by Qin Yu. The height of a building is related to its foundation. If you want to build a skyscraper, the foundation of the building must be solid and stable. If the foundation is quicksand, not to mention building a skyscraper, even a small cottage will collapse at any time. A person's soul garden is the foundation of the life that person achieves. A perfect soul garden can lead to becoming a celestial being or Buddha, while an ugly soul garden can lead to becoming a ghost or a demon. Whether a country is civilized depends on whether the soul gardens of its citizens are perfect or not. If their soul gardens are imperfect, then this country is by no means a civilized nation. To bring a country into the ranks of civilization, the first thing to do is to perfect and refine the soul garden of its citizens. What are the consequences of an imperfect soul garden? If someone is an official, they will deceive their superiors and delude their subordinates, corrupt and bribe, oppress and extort the people. If someone is a businessman, they will cheat and deceive for profit. If someone is a civil servant, they will fawn over their superiors and make things difficult for honest people. If someone is a president, they will oppress dissenters and treat the people as if they were nothing in order to consolidate their power. If they are an entrepreneur, they might produce substandard products and exploit their workers. If someone is a doctor, they will overtreat minor illnesses to empty the patient's wallet. If someone is a police officer, they will bully kind-hearted people with their power. If someone is a farmer, they will produce toxic agricultural products. If someone is a merchant, they will produce toxic food, drinks, and medicines. If someone with power has an imperfect soul garden, they will do anything within their power. They will invert right and wrong. They will create numerous wrongful convictions. They will make the people afraid to speak the truth, and they will make the people live in fear and panic without peace. People with an imperfect soul garden will constantly create troubles and sorrows. They will bring anxiety and sorrow at any time. They will create contradictions and conflicts at any time, and they will bring disappointment and despair at any time. The crisis of humanity is never brought about by nature, but by the imperfect souls of people. Therefore, the crisis of the soul is the greatest crisis of humanity. If a person does not cultivate their own soul garden, they should never expect to live a happy life, let alone dream of reaching the other shore, heaven. If a nation or country does not prioritize the construction of its citizens' soul garden, then this nation or country will inevitably descend into barbarism and ignorance, and this country will inevitably be ruled by tyranny, leaving the people in misery. 蜂蜜和苦水你选哪一个? Honey and bitterness. Which one do you choose? Xiefeng. November 16, 2022. Translation edited by Qin Yu. Culture is the lifeblood of a nation's social functioning. If the blood contains viruses, the society cannot operate healthily and individuals cannot attain a happy life. Let's dissect some cells in culture and see if these cells carry viruses. There's fragrance from the plum blossom, originating from the bitter cold. Without experiencing bone-chilling cold, how could the plum blossom be so fragrant? Pressure is the driving force for progress. Setbacks urge people to advance. Don't guide children, let them face setbacks and stumble a few times to become strong. Heaven sends down great responsibilities to someone, but first it makes their tendons and bones toil, their hearts suffer, and their bodies starve. Are the above perspectives correct? Let's analyze them from the perspective of human nature and facts. Let's consider praise, encouragement, compliments, sweet words, smoothness, good fortune, auspiciousness, and health as honey, and bitterness, pressure, poverty, setbacks, hunger, setbacks, criticism, ridicule, humiliation, and disabilities as metaphorical bitterness. From a human nature perspective, people will definitely choose honey over bitterness. If someone chooses bitterness over honey, then there must be a malfunction at the spiritual level. From a factual standpoint, have you noticed that almost all fruits, once a certain part is bruised, that part is more prone to decay and rot? As long as fruits are not bruised, they last longer, and the probability of decay and rot is lower. Bruising indicates that the fruit has been struck and faced setbacks. This proves that setbacks and blows are not good things. If this is how fruits react, then how about humans? How will people be affected by external setbacks and pressures? It is said that someone conducted an experiment by separating two plants of almost the same size and growth condition. One of them was treated with phrases like, "You are very beautiful. You are so beautiful. I love you. I really like you." While the other one was treated with phrases like, "You are very ugly. How could you look so disgusting? You are about to die." After a period of time, the plant that was frequently praised and encouraged grew lusher, while the one constantly subjected to defamation, cursing, and criticism gradually withered and lost vitality. If this is how plants react, then how about humans? Will people who are frequently praised and encouraged become healthier and more beautiful in spirit? Or will people who are constantly insulted and slandered become mentally healthy? Everyone has attended primary school. Have you noticed that some desks are full of scars? The reason is that some students hit it the day before, some students carve it with a knife, and some students knock it over. Over time, this desk becomes battered, shaky, with pockmarks on the surface. If a person frequently experiences hits, carvings, and shaking, will they become more perfect? Or will they become scarred? In psychology, there is a Pygmalion effect, which tells us that people tend to develop in the direction shaped by the masses. If everyone says, "You are full of love," this person will be full of love. If everyone says, "You are full of hate," this person will be full of hate. If everyone says, "You are a great person," the probability of this person becoming a great person will be high. If everyone says, "You are a scum," this person will inevitably move towards becoming a scum. Fruits, flowering plants, desks, and the Pygmalion effect tell us that it is more beneficial to praise and encourage people than to vilify and degrade them in order for a person to grow healthily and beneficially in society. My personal experience also proves that honey is better than bitterness. I have lived my whole life surrounded by people's love. As a child, adults always said, "This child is smart." When I went to elementary school, the teacher praised me as the phoenix in the sky. At 18, I was appointed as the head of the village. During high school, technical school, college, and university, I was almost the class monitor every semester, and during my time as a high school teacher, I was worshipped by my students as King Geezer. Especially during my more than 10 years as a guide in Life Genuine, I was praised by the members every day. My entire life has been spent growing up in a honey jar. I ask you, have I become bad? In fact, the reason why I created Life Genuine and the second home, besides the laws of nature, is an undeniable factor of being loved by people. I deeply feel the kindness, loveliness, and respect of people and the beauty of life. Therefore, making people live better has become my heartfelt activity. The growth experience and current situation of my child are also evidence. From a young age, I mainly praised and encouraged him, rarely giving him pressure or disparagement. What are the results? The result is a sound mind, ability, and capacity. He is good at handling relationships between people, and wherever he goes, he finds good teachers and helpful friends. He recently called me to say that they were going to travel to the UK and Italy and live in Thailand for a while. When I asked if there were any difficulties, he said, "Dad, don't worry. It's all invitations from friends, and we have friends looking after us everywhere." Not long ago, I also gave him a bit of mesmerizing potion, saying, "Son, you're really amazing." I have also experienced setbacks, deceptions, and blows, and have tasted bitterness. But the bitterness left in my heart is always a scar, an indelible scar, a forever ugly side of society and humanity. Whenever I think of the bitterness I have tasted, what arises in my heart is not love and compassion, but hatred and cruelty. So, I found, heaven sends down demons to test someone, but first it makes their hearts suffer, their tendons and bones toil, and their bodies starve. One fact cannot be ignored. There is no bitterness in heaven. People who live in heaven enjoy the beauty of life, while hell is full of insults, oppression, deception, cruelty, setbacks, and repression. Have you seen any ghosts evolving into celestial beings or Buddhas? Does the fragrance of plum blossoms come from hardship? Who can prove that the fragrance of plum blossoms comes not from the genetic structure of plum blossoms themselves, but from the invasion of severe cold? Must plum blossoms suffer hardships to emit fragrance? There are also plum blossoms in the thousand-year world, but they have not suffered the torture of severe cold. Why are they still as fragrant as ever? Therefore, my viewpoint is more praise, less blame, more encouragement, less setbacks. Let people have fewer pressures and setbacks in their lives, and more smooth sailing and beautiful sunshine. From another perspective, life is just a few short decades. Many people bid farewell to the world in their teens, 20s, and 30s. In this short time of fleeting existence, why make people suffer and toil their minds, bodies, tendons, and bones? Even if you grow up in bitterness and become an emperor, a wealthy person, or a star, isn't life still an illusory bubble? So, let people live sweet lives in honey jars. Let's speak sweet words to each other. Have any of you smelled foul odors in a flower house? Have any of you smelled the fragrance of flowers in a pit latrine? Have any of you seen kind-hearted people insult, deceive, attack, ensnare, or harm others? Have any of you seen morally bankrupt individuals praise, inspire, and treat others with sweet words? So, I ask, honey or bitter water, which one would you choose? 信用破产的代价，美国流浪汉的启示. The cost of credit bankruptcy, a revelation from American homeless. Xiefeng. February 20th, 2023. Translation edited by Qin Yu. In the powerful and affluent United States, there are approximately 600,000 homeless people wandering around, with most of them living on the streets in miserable conditions. While there are many factors contributing to homelessness, one of the biggest reasons is the bankruptcy of most homeless people's credit. Once credit is bankrupted, it is recorded by the U.S. judicial system. Finding a job or renting a house becomes almost impossible because companies and landlords primarily check individuals' credit histories through the federal government's network database. If there are credit issues, new companies will not hire and new landlords will not rent to those with credit bankruptcy, leaving most people with no choice but to wander the streets. In a rule of law country, once credit is bankrupt, the consequences are dire. People may not realize that the management of the universe also follows the rule of law. This rule of law is Tao, which, similar to the U.S. judicial system, meticulously records everyone's integrity. This mechanism is known as divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. Why does the Life Genuine Guide repeatedly emphasize to its members the importance of honesty? Why stress the need for everyone to speak the truth and keep promises? Why emphasize better to lose one's life than to break one's word? Because integrity is the fundamental of being human. Without fundamental, proper way will not appear, and without proper way, life cannot endure. More importantly, without integrity, one can never expect to reach heaven through cultivation, as heaven never accepts those who lack integrity. People need to understand that in some places and at certain times, those who break their promises can still obtain material wealth and respect from others. People can cleverly evade the punishment they deserve for not keeping their promises. But let me tell you, when you feel pleased with yourself for deceiving the public, for deceiving those involved, you have already fallen into the devil's web. You belong to the devil's clan, and the animal world and hell are your future destinations. If a government's credit is bankrupted, the people will no longer trust the government, and other governments will not engage in substantial exchanges with the bankrupt government, leading the country into chaos. If a company's credit is bankrupted, the company will inevitably go bankrupt, without a doubt. If an individual's credit is bankrupted, their future path will be extremely difficult, with virtually no bright prospects. So, everyone, you must honor your commitments and be extremely careful not to let your credibility become bankrupt. What if you break your promise? Heaven will not forsake a person who sincerely repents, who is willing to undergo self-reflection, and who earnestly seeks to rebuild their integrity. If you break your promise, you must willingly accept the consequences, without blaming the divine, others, or anyone else. Receiving punishment is certainly a good thing. If you are not punished, it is a bad thing, as punishment indicates there is still hope. If there is no punishment, it signifies there is no hope left. People, you must remember, only those who uphold their promises have the hope of reaching heaven. Those who do not honor their promises and do not repent have no chance of heaven. What is credit? In simple terms, it means keeping your word, as in promises must be kept, actions must yield results. In a more complex sense, it means adhering to contracts and fulfilling agreements. At a higher level, it means conducting oneself according to the principle that the sum of positive and negative energies must be zero. Once promises are not kept, contracts are not honored, and the principle of the sum of positive and negative energies being zero is violated, it constitutes a breach of trust. It is a case of credibility bankruptcy. 我们所有的付出和奉献都是为自己积累功德. All our efforts and dedications serve to accumulate merit for ourselves. Xiefeng, December 3, 2023. Truth must be fair. If it's not fair, it cannot be called truth. The pursuit of truth is the pursuit of justice. So, what is justice? Justice means that when a person gives and dedicates, they receive rewards. When a person commits wrongdoings, they must endure meticulous punishment. More precisely, the amount a person gives and dedicates should equal the compensation they receive. No more, no less. The amount a person reaps should match the effort they put in, without bias. Is there any evidence to prove the fairness of truth? There are three fact-based theories. One is the rule that the sum of positive and negative energy in the universe is zero. Another is the principle of conservation of energy, and the last is the law of cause and effect. You reap what you sow. The principles and laws of the universe ensure the balance of gain and loss and the mechanism of retribution and reward. Truth upholds fairness without delving into the morality or ethics of truthfulness, falsehood, good and evil, beauty and ugliness. Truth is like a mirror, accurately reflecting everything. It shows us our current state. Whatever we are, the mirror projects our reality. If we are a horse, the mirror reflects a horse. If we are a wolf, undoubtedly, the mirror shows a wolf. Our current state is a reflection of our consciousness. If we all love peace, we will live in a peaceful and prosperous world. If we all love conflict, we will be in a world of endless strife and war. If we love nature, nature will be harmonious and bountiful. If we harm nature, nature will retaliate with hurricanes, hail, droughts, and floods. In the universe, no soul is wronged. Everything is a consequence of one's own actions, a web of one's own making. The reason we cannot see the ins and outs of karmic retribution is that we are mere mortals without Dharma eye or Buddha eye to see the karma of past, present, and future lives, let alone the karma of multiple lives and the afterlife. Hence our thinking is shackled by the phenomena of reality and blind to the truth. I cannot delve into the analysis of the factors behind the grand events in human history, especially the rise and fall of dynasties and the reasons behind the phenomenon of millions being killed during the transitions. I can only analyze and infer from the consciousness and current state of the people I have known throughout my life. Sometimes, I lie in bed and comb through each person, from childhood playmates to schoolmates in elementary and middle school, from colleagues in factories, schools, and offices after starting work, to friends made in business, from friends made in the secular world to the Chanyuan celestials of the second home of life Changyuan. After extensive analysis, I have found the reasoning behind the principle that everyone's efforts and dedications are to accumulate merit for themselves, and there is not a single wronged soul in the world. Understanding this principle has many benefits. For example, in our interactions with others, regardless of their character, whether they are broad-minded and elegant or narrow-minded and rude, our efforts and dedications ultimately always return to us. On the surface, it seems that we give and others benefit, even taking advantage of us. In reality, we accumulate merit, and others dissipate their own blessings. The more blessings the recipient loses, the more merit the giver gains. Is accumulating merit useful? Merit is invisible and intangible. Is it just an illusion? Could it be deceptive preaching? In the past decade or so, I have interacted most with Chanyuan celestials of life Changyuan. I observe them every day, their efforts and dedications, their every comment online, their every word and deed in the home, even their every emotional change and attitude leaves an imprint in my heart. From this, I can generally predict who will eventually go to the Celestial Islands continent, who will go to the 10,000-year world, who will go to the 1,000-year world, who will return to the human world, and even other destinations. Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes, yet letting nothing slip through. The operation of Tao is meticulous, and truth is an absolutely fair existence. In a collective, any words spoken by anyone will lay down blessings or hidden dangers for themselves. Even an emotional expression will result in a consequence, especially a negative emotion, such as indifference, anger, rage, or hatred, will surely bring suffering one day in the future. Finally, a word for the readers. Do not worry about whether the people around you are enjoying blessings or suffering, whether they are idling or working hard. You just keep giving and dedicating joyfully, and heaven will surely not fail your efforts and dedications and will definitely give you corresponding compensation and rewards. 上帝为什么不救你? Why the greatest creator doesn't save you. Xiefeng, December 7th, 2023. People often ask me, why the greatest creator doesn't imprison all the bad people, allow various crimes to exist, or liberate those who suffer and endure hardships and injustice, among other questions. They say that the greatest creator who doesn't save the suffering is not compassionate, and his inaction in the face of human suffering proves that he doesn't actually exist. I say it's not that the greatest creator doesn't save. Rather, it's that people choose to suffer and endure hardships and injustices. The greatest creator cares for everyone at all times and always wants people to live a happy, joyful, free, and blissful life. But how many are willing to be saved? The sun rises every day, unwaveringly bestowing light and warmth upon everyone. Isn't that fair? Isn't that compassionate? But if you always avoid the sun and prefer to stay in the dark, that's not the sun's fault. It's your own choice. If you've chosen darkness, then enjoy the darkness. How can you blame the greatest creator for not giving you light and warmth? The greatest creator's messenger says, do not marry, but you don't listen and insist on getting married. Then you should bear the troubles, pains, and anxieties that come with preparing dowries, cars, and houses for marriage. You want children, and you toil for their growth, education, work, and marriage. When you're old and find that your children are also struggling and can't take care of you, you must endure the helplessness and loneliness of old age. All of this is your own choice, your own will. The suffering you endure is all self-sought. How can you blame the greatest creator for not saving you? The greatest creator's messenger says, do not envy others, do not compare yourself with others, do not try to be superior to others. Do you listen? When others buy cars and houses, become white-collar workers or start companies and make money, you become envious, and you feel unbalanced and pained inside. Moreover, you study and work day and night, spend money on success courses, always thinking about turning the tables, wanting to rise above, wanting to be superior to others, wanting to live better than others. As a result, you become tired, bankrupt, and your life becomes a mess. Isn't this all your own choice and creation? How can you blame the greatest creator for not saving you? The greatest creator's messenger says, do not live for money, but your mind is full of money, and every day you scheme about how to make money. For this, you gamble, speculate in stocks, participate in high-return financial activities, engage in real estate transactions, give and take bribes, borrow money to start businesses, try to get rich overnight, try to become a capital tycoon, try to become a wealthy person envied by others. For this, you rack your brains, even break the law and commit crimes, and ultimately find yourself living tiredly, gaining superficial glory of vanity, while being extremely exhausted spiritually and tormented in your soul. Isn't all this your choice and pursuit? You have no money and live a hard life. People around you laugh at you. Even your own parents, children, and friends despise you. You can't find a job after graduating from college. You work hard for a factory but end up unemployed. You carry the burden of car loans and mortgages. The internet is full of teachings on how to become rich and financially free, filled with teachings and temptations that are convincing and alluring, such as eating high-level bitterness instead of low-level bitterness, planning life with the mindset of the rich, and so on. There are also videos of young heirs to billions or company presidents that tempt you. You fantasize about becoming a powerful president or having the power to turn stones into gold. Fantasize about becoming a star, but the next day you still have to compete with others for a low-paying job, even running around all day with nothing to show for it, dragging your tired body back to your rented house to eat instant noodles. Isn't this all your own doing? The greatest creator's messenger told you 20 years ago that this path leads nowhere. Please choose another path, the one that leads to heaven. Did you listen? If not, how can you blame the greatest creator for not saving